Hey everyone, how are we all doing? I am Chris and I am back with another movie review. I realize that this is ridiculously late at night. I'm recording this at approximately, it's getting on towards 10 to 1 in the AM. But I'm fresh out the cinema and I wanted to get a review out for you guys because I've kind of been AWOL for like 2 weeks. I've been super busy with everything going on, and I haven't really watched many movies in between then. But this was the big one that was coming out, and I mean, the Fast and the Furious franchise speaks for itself. Fate would have it, the fate of the Furious would have it that I would somehow be swept into this franchise. This series of films was one that I kind of avoided for many, many years. It wasn't until I think it was Fast and the Furious 8 was about to come out. And when I was gearing up for a review for that at the time, I was like, I haven't seen any of the previous seven films. So I need to get caught up. So I spent like a week and a film a day charging through the Fast and the Furious franchise. And here we are at Fast 10, the part one of the two-part finale, which Vin Diesel has now quite conveniently said may turn into a trilogy. I'm under the impression that both parts have been filmed or they're in the process of. I thought they might be filming these two back to back. I might be mistaken about that. But it's been touted as a two-part finale, but I've heard now they may extend it to a three-part finale because, money. So this one, Fast 10, Fast X, if you will, has been directed by Louis Leterrier. I think it was originally going to be directed by Justin Lin, who's directed a bunch of them. I think he did 4, 5, 6, and the previous one 9, I think. But I seem to remember he parted ways over creative differences. I did wonder about that because whenever it's creative differences, I always want to know the reason, and I've got to believe maybe because it was the finale, he wanted to bring it back to basics and sort of take it back to street racing, which if you go back and watch the original Fast and the Furious to where we are now, it's one of the most interesting franchises I've ever seen. I can't even call it franchise now. I believe that it's touted as the Fast and the Furious saga. It's up there with Star Wars. It's up there with all the literary classics of our age. The Fast and the Furious saga. So I don't know whether that was the case. I don't know whether the original director who was on board for this, because there's an interview where Vin Diesel's talking about. I think it's like we've just started production on it, and you can tell he doesn't want to be there. You can tell he doesn't want to do it. So maybe he thought after how. I'm going to get onto Fast X, and I keep calling it Fast X. I'm going to get onto Fast 10 in a minute, but I just need to talk about Fast 9 because I mean, the director from Fast 9 was going to come on board for this one. Now, Fast 9 to me was the franchise, the part in the franchise where the shark was jumped. Now, there are many, many other shark jumping moments in the franchise before that point, but they drove into space, which was a particularly low point of the franchise. And there's actually, without giving too much away, there are a couple of lines in this film where they do refer to the whole space escapades, which got a good laugh in the cinema. I was actually surprised to see as many people there tonight. I could have gone to the cinema earlier this evening, but I don't know. I felt like just going this evening because I don't sleep very well, as you can probably tell. So I thought, yeah, I'll just get a late one. And there we are. So I don't know if the director of Fast 9, after making that, was like, even he realized it was a little bit too ridiculous. They went a little bit too far with it, and maybe for the final two-parter, he wanted to rein it back and make it more like the first one. Like a back to basics approach with it. I don't know. And then Vin Diesel overruled him and said, no, we want to make this a big, bombastic, CGI filled, physics defying, ridiculous epic. And if Vin Diesel wanted that, he certainly got it with this one. So this takes us very nicely onto Fast 10. I was actually kind of looking forward to this one. After Fast 9, I was like, this series needs to end. And maybe it will end in with the next film. It's meant to, the two-part finale. I don't think this franchise is going to go anywhere. I think if it makes a lot of money, which I think it will, especially if they advertise the shit out of it as the last Fast and Furious movie. It's going to make a lot of money. And if the audience is still there for it, I guarantee this franchise isn't going anywhere. Maybe we'll get a spin-off with Vin Diesel's son in the film. Maybe we'll get another Hobbs and Shaw movie and they'll keep that going somehow. But yeah, I'm going to try and keep spoilers to a minimum with this one, but there are a couple of things specifically related to the ending and teeing up stuff for the next one that I do want to talk about. But I will warn you guys in case, maybe you're not fussed. Yeah, it's Fast and the Furious. What are we going to say? JX says, remember when these movies were about racing? I do. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of nostalgia tied to these films for a lot of people. Didn't the first one come out in like 2001? It was the early 2000s, I think, because I remember it's about DVD players. So DVDs were like hot shit back then. It was movies on a disc. Like, whoa, we hadn't seen crazy shit like that before. And then yeah, the front, we've got like nuclear bombs and world trotting espionage and doomsday weapons and Christ only knows what else. I did actually wonder, I think with this being Fast 10, Fast X, I wanted the next one to be called Fast XX, which technically I know is 20, but just go with me here. And then if it is going to be extended to a trilogy, I want it to be called Fast Triple X, and I want a multiverse-like film where Xander Cage, Vin Diesel's character from the Triple X films, makes his way into the Fast and the Furious, and we have two Vin Diesels fighting for the fighting for the world or the universe, maybe at that point. I did always wonder with the whole space thing with Fast and the Furious that they need to save that for the final one. It was like a joke, like a private joke, just like, oh yeah, the Fast and the Furious, it's getting ridiculous, and eventually it will get to space. That's the only logical explanation it can go. And I was actually really shocked when they did it in 9. I thought they were going to save it for the final one, but there you go. Once you get to space, what can you do after that? This is more restrained. It's not restrained by any stretch of the imagination. It's still ridiculous, and I'll get onto some of the action set pieces in just a second. But it's more restrained. The fact that they don't go to space in this one automatically makes it more restrained than Fast 9. So I do appreciate that. Fast 9, I kind of equate to, if anyone's played the Saints Row games. Saints Row 2 has just the right amount of ridiculousness in and tongue-in-cheek humor, but it kind of keeps itself grounded for the most part. And then Saints Row 3 comes out and it's completely ridiculous, but it's still kind of dipping its toe in the I'm not going to say realism, but grounded quality to it, but it is a lot more elaborate. And then Saints Row 4 came out and there's aliens and there's a space invasion and you have superpowers and you can fly, and it's completely fucking ridiculous. Fast 9 was Saints Row 4. So this is kind of going back to Saints Row 3, I guess, if I'm going to carry on with that analogy there. With this one, you know what you're getting in for with these Fast and Furious films now, and I just wanted a good time at the cinema. It's been a few weeks since I've been to the cinema. Anything? I don't think I've seen anything massively new since John Wick 4. Actually, trying to think if I've seen anything between then. Maybe not. Maybe it's been like a month. Jesus Christ, I need to catch up with some movies. But I just wanted a good time. I wanted some escapism, and that's exactly what I got with this one. The action set pieces are just as ridiculous as ever. There isn't anything grounded about this film whatsoever. The main draw for this film, I think, and easily the best thing about this, absolute show stealer, whatever you want to call it, is Jason Momoa as the villain. He is fantastic. I've never been a big Jason Momoa fan. He seems, I'm sure he's an all right guy in real life. The roles that I've seen, he always plays like the role of the barbarian kind of character, even playing Conan the Barbarian in the Conan the Barbarian remake. But it's the game of the Drogo. Khal Drogo. There we go. I'm confusing him with Rocky 4 now. But that kind of character, the very stoic, the very stern, the very physically intimidating and grunting kind of character that's very monotone. And when they cast, I didn't like him in Aquaman. I think was horrifically miscast as the character of Aquaman. And I wasn't looking forward to him in this. He's not really an actor that jumps out to me. And I thought he was going to play it like the big, lumbering, physically imposing villain that he usually plays. And when the film starts off and we get introduced to him through another little bit of retconning of the series, which I actually really liked how they worked it in. The Fast and the Furious franchise is no stranger to retconning certain plot points, a lot of which make no sense. There is no plot to this. There is no track that this plot is running on. It's absolute nonsense. Like family members, long lost family members, long lost brothers and sisters, and show up out of nowhere that have never been mentioned. I think that the prime example of that was John Cena's character as Vin Diesel's brother, his long lost brother, who they never spoke about. All this talk of family this, family that, they never once mention him. And I think even Vin Diesel's sister in the film, in an earlier film, I can't remember which Fast and Furious movie it was, she says to Vin Diesel, like, oh, how could I forget my only brother? Well, no, apparently as a Fast 9, there was another brother who just no one talked about. So in a world of retcons, I actually really like how this one starts off. It goes back to Fast 5 with the where they're towing the safe behind them during the heist, and they work the villain into it through some retconning, and immediately sets the stakes of why the villain is out for revenge on Vin Diesel and crew. And I think if I kind of wish they'd have done something like that with John Cena, because that would have just circumnavigated the whole convoluted family history of this long lost brother thing. Just make him be a guy who's been like jaded by Vin Diesel and his family, and he wants revenge for them. Like, just do something. That's what they should have done with Fast 9, I think, rather than introducing him. JX says Fast 5. You know what? Funnily enough, I know we've got a lot of projects planned. I was watching this film with an edit in mind of either removing certain lines or removing lines from this one. But yeah, I mean, you could piece certain aspects of it with Jason Momoa's character into Fast 5, and I think it would fit in quite neatly. But as retcon goes, it is bullshit. But yeah, it's the Back to the Future 2 thing. You know, when you go back and watch Back to the Future 1 at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and Marty McFly's on stage playing Johnny Be Good, after you've seen Back to the Future 2, you then rewatch that first film in a completely different light. You're thinking, oh, there's another Marty up there on the ceiling, on the rafters, and, you know, he's after the sports almanac. I guess it kind of lends that quality to it. So if you go back and watch Fast 5, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, Jason Momoa is also chasing after him on that bridge as well. Jason Momoa is hands down the best thing in this film. And he's the best villain the franchise has had so far. And I'm so grateful for that, because if these are the final two, we've got a good villain for the final two films. A lot of the times with the villains in this franchise is they just kind of get absorbed into family. So they always start out as villains and then they always turn good. You know, there's like a heel turn, and then by the end of it, they're just part of the crew. Part of the crew, part of the ship. That's also kind of the case of Charlize Theron's character in this film. I won't give too much away, but there is pretty much from the get-go, she's still a bad guy, kind of. She's out for her own ends, but they have to shift the scale with this one, and they very much assert that Jason Momoa's character is the big bad of this film. You know, Charlize Theron has been the bad guy in the last couple of films, and, you know, she's always there pulling the strings in the background. But they kind of bring her down a peg or two in this one. And yeah, I still really like her character, actually. I mean, Charlize Theron's a fantastic actress. It's actually kind of funny to see all of these quality actors in this film. You know, you got Dame Helen Mirren in this film, for fuck's sake. And yeah, she's making a paycheck. It's keeping her in work. Like, it's fine. JX says, speaking of that reference, are we still doing pirates? I'm down for that. Yeah, let's give it a shot. Jason Momoa in this film, he's going to take the biggest section of this review, hands down, because he is so entertaining and he is so great. And actually, speaking of pirates, I can't take credit for this because was on Critical Drinker's review of the film. He compares Jason Momoa in this film to a cross between Jack Sparrow and the Joker, and I don't think there is a more accurate description of his portrayal of the character in this film. He is completely off his tits. He is flamboyant. He's camp. He's foppish. He's fucking hilarious the whole movie. He is totally unhinged. You never quite know what he's going to do. And I have never seen Jason Momoa this animated in a role before. It looks like he's like a pantomime villain. He's just having the time of his life, and he is by far the most entertaining thing in the film. He offsets Vin Diesel actually very nicely, because Vin Diesel always takes these films and the character way too seriously and is the very boring, monotone, machismo hero, and everyone else is just having fun with it. So Vin Diesel's the straight man, and and Jason Momoa is the camp one in the film. There's a scene in this film which I don't even think really serves any purpose to the film, certainly not to the plot. After Jason Momoa has committed awful atrocities in the world, he is in a pink dressing gown with his hair in like rollers, and he's painting the toenails of one of like these security guards that he's hired. Well, we actually find out that he's killed them, and he's sitting outside with two of the corpses of these like security guards, and he's painting the toenails of one, and he's got them in sort of like animated positions. And they've got like sellotape on their faces to sort of give them like crazy expressions on their faces. It's fucking brilliant. I love it. There's a scene where he's fighting Vin Diesel on the bridge, and Vin Diesel's just like laying into him, and he's just laughing like a maniac. It's exactly like the scene from The Dark Knight where Batman's punching the Joker in the interrogation scene, and the Joker's just laughing in his face. It's exactly the same as that. There was another thing that happened in this film that really reminded me of another film, and it's towards the beginning of the film, and I can't place it. That's gonna kill me. Yeah, shit. Oh god, I wish I could have remembered that. The action in this film is ridiculously over the top, as you would imagine from these films, filled with absolutely incredibly dated CGI that looks like a video game. In fact, I think I've seen video games with better graphics than some of the action scenes in this film. You just have to go with it. Part of me, I felt like my brain was wrestling with itself. Part of it was just like, switch your brain off, Chris, enjoy it. It's the Furious. You isn't going to change from that. And then another part of me was like, yeah, but this is really dumb. So I feel like my brain kind of found an armistice by the end of it, maybe. There's a scene where Jason Momoa is going to blow up Rome with a giant bomb. It looks like the thing from The Dark Knight Rises. You know, the trigger man will trigger the bomb. It's that kind of giant spherical ball. And it's in the back of this truck, and they're trying to deactivate it, and it gets out, and it starts rolling through the street room, and this thing just stopped rolling. This is like a 10-ton mega nuclear head that would just flop out of the truck and maybe roll a little bit and then stop because of the sheer weight of this thing. But this thing's sort of like bouncing through the street. It's like fucking pinball, you know, bouncing off everything. And although it gets derailed on its route to the Vatican, because that's the target, he wants to blow up the Vatican. Although they get diverted from that long ago, because this chase goes on for about 15 minutes, it feels like 15, 20 minutes. It went on for ages. It still somehow manages to bounce its way exactly to the Vatican. and the way that they disable it and they stop it is just crazy, over the top, physics defying. Cars slamming into things, flying through the air, things that would just absolutely total a car. And just the person inside would be chunks. There would be nothing left of Vin Diesel. They're fine. Everyone's got plot armor. Everyone's fine. The scenes in this where I might be straying into spoiler territory now, guys. So if you haven't seen the film, just be aware of it. The scenes in this where characters die or apparently die, and I can't believe that anymore. The concept of death in the Fast and the Furious franchise has just been killed. They've killed death in the Fast and the Furious. Never as a franchise before, but maybe Star Wars is the other perfect example. Continuously bringing back deceased characters. Somehow Palpatine returned. Well, somehow all of the characters returned in this. Towards the end of we get the resurrection of another deceased character, or seemingly deceased character. John Cena buys it by the end of it in a fiery wreck, and they all very slow-mo and epic and emotional, but shit, like, they could probably bring him back in the next line. If Han can survive crashing in a car and being shot in the head by Jason Statham through some retconning in Fast 9, which I'm still trying to get my head around, they can do that. Russell's character isn't in this film. They do mention that he's just AWOL, so I guess they're keeping their bets open if he comes back for 7. Brie Larson's movie, and I didn't entirely hate her. I thought her character was fine. I thought she played it very well. And yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else to say about this film. I was confused about little Vin Diesel's son in the film, because I'm trying to remember back, and guys, I can't remember the story of these films. I'm watching bits in this film, and I'm like, oh, I know that's a reference. That's harkening back to something. It's this. As I say, I haven't watched these films since Fast 8 was coming out. When did Fast 8 come out? Was it like 2016? Check when that came out. 2017. I haven't watched these films in 6 years. And I've only watched them once a piece, so my memory's a bit hazy on them, especially because I watched the course of a week. There are a lot of references in there. Reference Paul Walker. And it's weird in the context of the film, because the song comes on. It's been a long time, or whatever the song is. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. That plays like an orchestral version of it, and they play in the film like Paul Walker's character is in the film. They're getting emotional, they're crying, they're embracing each other. This sad music, and of course, it's for the audience's benefit. Because we know that Paul Walker's gone, and they're still, honoring his memory and everything. But he's alive. He's very much alive in the context of the film. He's living his life. I do think it's very weird in the context of the films that of all the people that have been called up to come together to take down Charlize Theron and all of this crazy shit that keeps getting to them, they've never called his character up. I get why, of course I do, but it's weird in the context. So yeah, characters have like a lot of reverence for his character, and they get very emotional, which seems a little bit out of place. But it's for the audience's benefit. It's for that quality to it. There's other tie-ins to other characters that we've seen before, but yeah, I'm really confused with Vin Diesel's son, because I thought when we see him as a baby, I think, don't we, in Fast 8? I actually can't remember him being in. I know he was in Fast 9, but my memory's a little hazy. Shouldn't he be Caucasian? Because I think his Bible mom. Like, I was watching this and thinking actually was Rodriguez mother, and then I realized no, she's like his stepmom. Biological mom was the one who died in Fast 8. Not Letty. That's Michelle. Oh, I forgot her name. Jack. Elena? I want to say it's Elena. Yeah, Elena. She's killed in Fast 8. Biological mom. I think the actress is Spanish, but as far as I know, like that kid should be Caucasian. And as a baby, like what you see him in Fast 8, he is, and now he isn't. I couldn't tell you the I couldn't tell you the ethnicity of the actor who plays little Brian in this one, but yeah, the gene pool doesn't seem very strong in in the Vin Diesel family. I will say that. Um, Shit. Anything else I can say in this? I think it's good how they split the crew up. There's a lot of characters they're having to juggle now, because they keep drafting people in, all these villains. So the family's growing and growing. So you've Roman, Chris, and gang, and Han and everything going off on their own journey. You got Diesel doing his thing. You got Michelle Rodriguez in another situation as well. So they split all the characters up, but I feel like that helped the pacing of the film a little bit. I'm feeling the effects of the runtime towards the end of it. I feel like they could have tightened the pacing up a little bit. The 100 and it's 2 hours 20 minutes, and I do think that's very long. I think they could have shaved off 10 minutes out of this film, maybe to cut down on some of those action scenes. I was feeling fatigued towards the end, and I do think it outstayed its welcome just a little. There's some cool bits going on with the soundtrack. So Brian Tyler returns, longtime composer of the franchise. There's one part in particular where the music stood out to me. The music's not bad. Not going to shit on any musician or any composer or anything for the music. Writing music's incredibly hard. It just kind of serves the film. It's like an undercurrent of the film. You never really notice the music, apart from one bit, which wasn't written by Brian Tyler. Jason Momoa's character, he's been very camp and like, rated and everything. He's gesticulating and he talks about like, oh, I love ballet and I've always been a Swan Lake kind of guy, whereas you strike me as more of a Nutcracker kind of guy. And then he does something, and then the orchestra swell a rendition of the Swan Lake main theme, which I thought was kind of cool. I love that melody. So that's the only bit of the soundtrack I really remembered. Absolute spoilers for the ending now. The scene ends on a cliffhanger. Assume that Han and everyone, we assume that got shot fiery wreck in a plane, crashed into the side of a mountain and exploded. Of course, they won't be, because no one's ever really gone in the Fast and the Furious, so they'll have found a really convoluted bullshit way of how they got out of it. And there's a cliffhanger at the end as well with Saul's character and his son, where he's at this dam rigged to blow, and it goes off and it explodes, as far as we know, and it cuts to the next scene, so we don't know what's going on there. Michelle Rodriguez is this Antarctic prison alongside Charlize Theron, and they escape, and they're picked up by the nuclear submarine that shows up. I'm assuming it's the same one from Fast 8, piloted by is back. And I think she was meant to have died at the end of Fast 6 on the never-ending runway. So how she survived falling, I think she fell onto like the tarmac or something, didn't she? Did she go under a car? I actually remember how she died. She's back, and so I'm sure they're going to explain as best as they can how she's back. And then there is a mid-credit scene to the film as well. And I thought they probably would do it. I know that The Rock and Vin Diesel had a bit of a beef. I don't know if it was to do with Hobbs and Shaw, and the fact that he went off and did a spin-off without Vin Diesel say so. But The Rock's back, and of course he is, because what else is he going to do? What has he got going at the moment? He backed the wrong horse with DC. Black Adam was kind of a flop. No one see it, and the DC universe anyway with James Gunn, and The Rock ain't coming back for it. So he doesn't really have any franchises going at the moment. So maybe that's why he's back to this one. Lord have mercy, they're remaking Moana. Rock coming forward, absolutely point, is going to be the same film. The budget of this film as well, I wanted to talk about this. The budget for Fast 10 is $340 million. That's high. I actually think it's a content. I think it's in the top 10 of most expensive movies, isn't it? Is it? Yeah, it's the 8th most expensive film ever made. Ridiculous budget. I would have never have guessed it was that high. 340 million. Like, I know there's a lot of effects work in this, but the effects look terrible. And there's so many of them. There's so many terrible CGI effects in this film. I mean, okay, so 340 mil. Shit like that. I thought maybe that's like the combined budget of this and the second part, but I don't think it is. Just for this, 340 mil. So they usually say for the budget, for the overall expense of marketing and everything, you have to double essentially. So probably looking at just shy of 700 mil. This film's going to have to make like 750, 800 before it even starts making its money back. It's already made 320, so I think it's well on its way. It's only been out, this weekend? I'm pretty confident it will get there. Fast 9, I want to see how much Fast 9 made. I know Fast 8 made like a stupid amount of money, didn't it? Fast 9 was the budget of between 220 and 720. So there's a chance I could get it. Positive word of mouth. Maybe most people didn't like Fast 9. A lot of people that I know that love the Fast and the Furious franchise, none of them have seen Fast 9, or the people who have seen it really disliked it. Yeah, Fast 8 made 1.2 billion. Jesus, that's a lot of money. I really liked Fast 8. It's definitely one of my favorites of the franchise. So yeah, it's just a Fast 9 thing. It was too ridiculous, or people just thought it was too over the top and didn't go and see it, or didn't go and see it multiple times. I think this will make about 700. I can see it making that. But yeah, I think that's the thing I can talk about this. I'm really annoyed that I can't think of the film comparison. There's something towards the beginning of the film that's almost like note for note from another movie. If I'm reminded, I'll put it in a comment on this video. But it is late. It is 20 past 1, so I'm gonna go get some sleep. But appreciate JX for jumping on the comments. That's all good. Hopefully you guys get a later date maybe. There are a lot of good films. I've got a lot of films in the cinema actually. There's some cool rescreenings. I'm at the cinema again tomorrow for a 4K rescreening of John Carpenter's They Live. Great film from the 80s. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. There's Across the Spider-Verse, which I've got tickets booked for. There's a 5th anniversary screening of The Wicker Man, which is one of my favorite horror films. Terrifying film. So I'll be seeing that towards the back end of June. And then I've got tickets booked for Sisu as well, which is a Critical Drinker recommended film. Completely over the top, ridiculous machismo film. Actually, I do want to say that what I do appreciate about this Fast and the Furious thing, it's nice to get a movie that isn't just preachy with like political agenda and identity politics or all this some bullshit that goes on nowadays. It's mostly from Disney. It's just men act. You've got your classic burly like 80s action hero kind of things. You've got your gorgeous ass kicking women in there. It's cool to do that in a film. Now, is this one of my favorite films of all time? Hell no. Of course it isn't. Have a good time. Yeah, I was entertained for hours. I probably wouldn't ever rush film again. Maybe I'd just probably watch some of Jason Momoa's scene on YouTube. But I had a good one, and it kind of reminds me of it's good to get these escapism films sometimes. There's going to be a lot of shit that comes out, mostly from Disney. I'm looking at you, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Absolutely dreading going to see that. The Little Mermaid's the big release this weekend, but I'm sorry, guys, I have the strength in me. I'm not giving money to that film. I'm not giving it the time of day. I'm not doing it. I'll probably just watch the original Little Mermaid on the day it comes out and love life and watch a really good film. But I'm not doing it. Not even to just like rant about it, because I already know everything that I can rant about it. I didn't get the trailer for it today, thankfully, but I did get an advert for it, and saw some clips from it that I hadn't seen before because I haven't been watching the trailers. And oh boy, that film looks so fucking bad. But I'm looking forward to Across the Spider-Verse, one of my most anticipated from this year. I'm going to go and see it in iSense, so I'm going to see it on the slightly bigger screen with a better sound quality to it. It's worth it. Actually, when I booked tickets for it, the screening's almost sold out, so there's a lot of Spider-Man fans, Spider-Verse there. And I stand by one of the most groundbreaking animated films that we've seen in like the last 10 years. It really is that good. Okay, that'll do it for my review of Fast 10. Please do let me know your comments on the film. Let me know your thoughts. Let's get a conversation going about it on Fast 10. Because yeah, I had a good this one. I know I've been away for a couple of weeks and I am trying to balance this with a lot of other stuff, but please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. If you want to see a review on any of those that I mentioned that I'm seeing, do let me know. Of course, I'll be jumping on for the major releases like Spider-Verse and everything. But if anything else crops up, do let me know. I really want to get back to regular Lord of the Rings content on the channel because I feel like I've neglected that for a while. Power was a thing, and it was fun on week to week and ranting about those episodes. And it just, the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit quizzes and everything, and just talking with all you Tolkien fans out there. I'm trying to think of some ideas to get more regular Lord of the Rings content on the channel. So if you guys have lots of videos you'd like to see, any topics you'd like to see discussed, or just have a general chit chat, please do let me know. Drop me a comment and I'll respond to it. I am conscious that I look like absolute shit right now, so I'm getting my ass to sleep. Good night, everyone, or good afternoon while you watch it. Catch you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.